Hello. I've just been sent this extraordinary video through TikTok or YouTube or Instagram. I have no idea really, but it's an interpretation of a passage in the Bible, Ezekiel chapter 38, and it's a fundamental misreading of prophecy. So when Ronald Reagan mused that Russia might be the Gog of Magog in Ezekiel 38, he was echoing an influential dispensationalist tradition popularized by John Walvoord. And it's the idea that Ezekiel foresaw a Russian-led invasion of Israel, joined by Iran, Turkey, Libya and Sudan, fought on the Golan Heights, where God alone would intervene to save his people. And this reading has gripped evangelical imagination, but it is, I would argue, wholly wrong. Ezekiel spoke in the 6th century BCE. Meshech, Tubal, Gomer and Togarmah were not Moscow, Tobolsk or modern Russia. They were the tribes of Anatolia and of the Caucasus. To link Meshech with Moscow is a linguistic fantasy. Moscow didn't even exist until the Middle Ages. And the fact that Ezekiel talks about from far north, in Ezekiel's world it would have meant one thing only: the traditional inversion, the traditional invasion route into Israel, which was Assyria and Babylon. They always marched south through Syria into Palestine, and that's where you get the famous clash of the armies, in which what's the king? Anyway, the king who does the big temple cleansing thing. His name will come back to me in a few minutes. North is also a symbolic direction of danger, not a map of not a map to the Kremlin. The Jewish historian Josephus identifies Magog with the Scythians, the nomadic horse archers of the Eurasian steppe. They terrified the ancient Near East, but they were not the Russians. Gog is a literary cipher, the ultimate enemy, not an historic primer, for fortune telling. And Ezekiel here anticipates the style we see later in Daniel and the book of Revelation. Apocalyptic literature is not about telling the future. It's symbolic theology, and its function is to reassure a people under pressure. Though the nations rage, God will act. Hail, earthquakes, fire from heaven are stock images of divine warfare, not weather forecasts. And every age has cast its enemy as Gog: Napoleon, the Kaiser, Hitler, Stalin, and then the Soviets in Reagan's day. The text becomes a mirror in which each generation projects its own fears. But that is about our psychology, not Ezekiel's theology. And Israel was traumatized, exiled, and doubting whether God's promises still stood. Ezekiel paints a dramatic picture. The greatest imaginable coalition descends upon God's people, and yet it collapses. That coalition collapses not by Israel's strength, but by God's power. The message is simple and timeless. Your security is not in armies or alliances, but in God alone. To reduce Ezekiel 38 to a Russian invasion roadmap is to strip it of its genre and purpose. Apocalyptic is not a cosmic horoscope. It is resistance literature. It sustains hope. It says, when you are powerless, God remains sovereign. So when Walvoord or Reagan insists Ezekiel foresaw tanks on the Golan Heights, they are not doing exegesis, but Cold War politics dressed up as prophecy. They're doing propaganda. And Ezekiel's vision is not about Moscow or TikTok doomsayers. It's about divine faithfulness and human fear. If you want to know what apocalyptic really does, think of it not as a fortune teller's crystal ball, but as a stained glass window, colourful, symbolic, and designed to let in the light, not to predict the lottery numbers. So, we can go in and look at Revelation 20 next time if you wish. But this is, I think my job here is to debunk the sort of rubbish which is sent to scare people on TikTok and Instagram. This is a reel, so this is Is this Instagram? I have no. This is Instagram. Yeah, complete rubbish, complete and utter bosh.